Hello friends, in this particular video, we are going to discuss some past year questions based on paragraph summary. These questions are taken from CAT 23. All the 6 questions that were asked from this particular variety, that is para summaries, are there in the video. So please watch this video carefully till the very end because we are going to solve all the questions from CAT 23 of paragraph summary. Before moving further, you should know what is a summary, rather what is a good summary. Well, by summary we mean all points in short, and that summary should essentially contain the main idea or the central idea, and it should capture the tone, that is feeling of the author. Please keep that in mind. While discussing the questions, you will also understand how can you solve and go about these questions. So not just solve the questions with me, but also listen to the analysis, that is the discussion of the questions carefully. Let's begin. Here comes the first question. What should you do is pause the video for a while and restart it later after solving it. So solve it and then listen to the discussion. Let's begin the discussion. If we talk about this particular paragraph, it seems author has given the main point or the idea upfront, but it is not the case. Let's begin. It says heat waves are becoming longer, frequent and intense. Then he gives reason. The reason is due to climate change and all. So let's say this is our point number 1. Then author says the impact of extreme heat are unevenly experienced. So what it says, it is uneven. So at some places you have more heat, at other places you have less heat. With older people and young children, those with pre-existing medical conditions are on the low income significantly more vulnerable. So there are few people who are more vulnerable. So it is unevenly experienced, probably that's what he is wishing to say. So this is point number 2. Adaptation to heat waves is a significant public policy concern. Research conducted among at-risk people in UK reveals that even vulnerable people do not perceive themselves at risk. So what he is trying to say that there are vulnerable people and even they do not feel that they are at risk. So somewhere that public concern, people should feel concerned about this, it is not felt properly. Fine. This suggests that understanding how extreme heat is narrated is very important. So somewhere it is not getting narrated. And then this seems to be the conclusion or the suggestion of the author. So this is the most important point here. The news media play a central role in this process and can help warn people about the potential danger as well as about impacts of infrastructure and society. This is what author is suggesting. And in theory, we always say that whatever author is suggesting is essentially important for us because that is the main idea. So our summary should capture this suggestion. If our summary is not capturing this suggestion, it is not a good summary. Let's begin. Option number 1. It says that protection from heat waves is important, but current reports and public policies seem ineffective. Okay. Does it contain this? No. So not a very good option. Second, heat waves pose an enormous risk. The media plays a pivotal role in alerting people to this danger. It is getting covered out here. So out of the 2 options, this is a better option. Let's move to the third option. People are vulnerable to heat waves caused due to climate change. Measures taken are ineffective. Again, it is not covering this conclusion or the suggestion. So not a very good option. Last one. News stories help in warning people about heat waves, but they have to become more effective. So author is not saying that these news stories are not effective. He says news media play a vital role, an important role, central role. So this is getting covered here. So our answer is option number 2. So we have solved this question. Now you must have learned something about it. Let's try one more question from 2023. Here's the question. Pause the video for a while. Now let's discuss. It says people spontaneously create counterfactual alternatives. What do we mean by counterfactual? We say that if only if, agar aisa hota, agar vaisa hota. That's what he means by saying counterfactual alternatives to reality when they think if only or what if, agar aisa hota to ye ho jata. These are termed as counterfactual alternatives. That's what has been said in point number 1. The mind computes counterfactuals for many reasons. So this is our first point, and then he is saying these counterfactual alternatives are created for several reasons. What are the reasons? Counterfactuals explain the past and present. This is reason number 1. For the future, they implicate various relations. This is second, including the causal, that is effect and cause wale, causal ones, and they affect intentions and decisions. This is third. So these are some reasons. They modulate emotions. Again, this is one more reason, such as regret and relief. They support moral judgments. Another reason, let's say reason number 5th, such as blame. The ability to create counterfactuals develops throughout the childhood. So what he says that this ability, it gets developed with our childhood and contributes to reasoning and other people's beliefs, including their false beliefs. So we can say this is point number 3. So there are 3 points. First, we create counterfactual alternatives. Number 1. Number 2, we create it for several reasons. Author explained those reasons. And then the last one, that it gets developed. That is, it gets developed with passage of time, especially from childhood. Now, let's look at different options. People create counterfactual alternatives to realities for several reasons. Yes, this is given. Okay, so we have P1 plus P2. Including reasoning about other people's belief. Okay, it contributes to, it is not including, so not a very good option, but let's retain it for a while. Counterfactual thinking helps to reverse past. It helps to reverse past and future actions. It is not containing P1 and P2, so we can eliminate this. Next, counterfactual alternatives to realities are created for a variety of reasons. This is point number 1, point number 2, and is part of one's developmental process. Now, out of these 2 options, it says including reasoning about other people's belief, and it says part of one's developmental process, and it goes well with this particular line. So, out of the 2 options, C seems to be a better option. Fine. So let's move to the last option before concluding that 3 is the answer. The last option, counterfactuals help people to prepare for future by understanding intentions and making decisions. It is not containing P1 and P2. So we have only one option, which is the best one, which is option number 3. And that's our answer. Let's do one more question from CAT 23. So here's the question. Please pause the video for a while. Let's discuss. Gradually, life for the island's birds is improving. So what he says, life for a particular island's birds, that life is improving. Antarctic prions and white-headed petrels, which also nest in burrows, had managed to cling on to some of the sites while pests were on the islands. The numbers are now increasing. So what he is saying is that there were pests in that island. Now those pests are probably no more. So the life is now improving. Their numbers are now increasing. It is fantastic and so exciting, Shaw says. As birds return to breed, the birds are returning now. They also poo, that is they excrete. This adds nutrient to the soil, which helps in turn helps the plants to grow back stronger. Tall plants, then burrowing birds hide from the predatory squaws. It's this wonderful feedback loop. So it's a feedback loop. So somewhere they are protecting the particular place from most probably pest, and now they are seeing the returns. That's what has been said in this particular paragraph. Let's look at different options. There is an increasing number of predatory birds and plants on the islands. Now, nothing has been said about this, so this is not a good option. Second, in absence of pest, said yes. Life on the islands is now protected. Yes, this is also given. And there has been revival for variety of birds as well as plants, given. So this is a very good option. Moving to the next one. there is a huge positive transformation of the ecosystem of the islands when brought under environment protection. Okay, this is also good option, correct option. Flowering plants, herbs and birds are now being protected on this wonderful Antarctic island. Again, it is not covering each and everything. So this is what is covering that now the life there is improving, pests are not there, plants are also getting stronger, all that stuff. So this is covered in these two options. Now, this option is pretty general and this is specific. When you confront these two options, would you go for a broad option or the precise one? You should always go to the precise one. And thus, our answer is option number 2nd. Fine. So, we have discussed one more question. Now, let's move on and let's solve one more question from this particular cat. So, let's discuss. What is the first point? The first point says, the weight of society's expectation is hardly a new phenomenon. So, this weight is not a new phenomenon. It used to be earlier also. But it has become particularly draining over the recent decade. So there is the first point and in fact second point, which is after but. And we always talk in theory, when you are solving para-summary questions and you get a contrasting conjunction, keep an eye because you will find a good point there. And what is the point? That now let's discuss. So before moving further, let's collect the points. When we read first sentence, we get the first point. It says the weight of society's expectation. Now, society expects a lot from you. You should do this, you should do that. Now, this is not a new phenomenon. That is earlier also, there used to be weight of expectation. But then, whenever you get a contrasting conjunction, believe me, an important point can come. But it has become particularly draining over the recent decades. That is, the weight has increased, it has become draining now. Then he gives reason. Why? Because of expectation themselves. Their expectations are multifarious and contradictory. So those expectations are contradictory now, and that's why that weight has increased. So in short, he has said society used to expect and they expect till today, but expectations have increased. The perfectionism, now he is explaining this contradictory point by giving a point, rather you can say explanation or example. He says about perfectionism. He says perfectionism of 1950s was rooted to norms of mass culture. That is, you should follow masses. You should be like others. He says that. He explains it later. When he says there was a pressure to look like everyone else. So this was expectation earlier. You should behave, look like others. Now this has got changed. The perfectionist of today, by contrast, again a contrasting word, by contrast, feel an obligation to stand out. So now you should stand out. Earlier, you should look like everyone else. Now you should stand out of the crowd. That's how it is contradictory. So we have the points. These are what you can say point number 1, point number 2, and this has been explained by this. Fine. Now, though long standing, so this has been there earlier also. The pressure to appear perfect and thereby attract attention has evolved over time from conformism. So earlier you need to conform, to that of non-conformist. Now you need not conform. So this is okay option. Fine. Let's move to second one. The pressure to appear perfect has always been cause of tension and conflict because the idea itself has been a state of flux and hard to define. Now, author has never said that this idea is hard to define. He has actually defined it, given an example also. So, not a good option. The desire to attract attention is so deep-rooted in individual consciousness that people are willing to go to any length to achieve it. Now, this is again not mentioned, out of scope. Eliminate. So, if something is not given, something that cannot be inferred, such option should be eliminated. Last. The image of perfectionism is reflected in and perpetuated by media. Media? Not all said about this. So, not a good option. So, what's the answer? The answer is option number 1. And that's our answer. Fine. Let's move to next question. Please pause the video and try it out. Let's discuss. It says, colonism is not a modern phenomenon. So, colonism is not a modern phenomenon. Then he says, world history is full of examples of one society gradually expanding by incorporating adjacent territory. So he says colonism is not a new phenomenon. Earlier also colonism was there. Okay. In 16th century, colonism changed decisively. So this was point number 1, and this is point number 2, that colonism changed a lot in 16th century because of technological developments. Now this is reason why it developed because of technological developments. In navigation that began to connect more remote parts of the world, the modern Europe colonism project emerged when it became possible to move large number of people across. So because of technology, because of navigation, colonism increased. It changed rather decisively. The term colonism is used to describe the process of European settlement, violent dispositions, and political domination over the rest of the world. You can say this is, let's say, point number 3. So these are 3 things that has been discussed largely in the passage. So let's begin and find best option. Option A says colonism surged in 16th century due to advancement in navigation, enabling British settlements abroad and global dominance. Okay option, let's retain it for a while. As a result of developments in navigation technology, European colonism led to displacement of indigenous population and political changes in 16th century. Okay sort of option, but it is missing out the point that it is not a new phenomenon and it got changed a lot, not there. So you can retain for a while. Colonism conceptualized in 16th century allowed colonizers to expand their territories. It is again only from the last part, the way option number 2 was. So this is capturing only last part. Technological advancement in navigation in 16th century transformed colonism. So colonism surged, it says transformed. And here it says changed decisively. Which word captures change better, surge or transform? Obviously it is transform. Transform means changed. Enabling Europeans to establish, now this is capturing point number 3, this is capturing point number 2. So this option is capturing both the points. So this is a better summary, and thus this should be our answer. Fine. So let's move to the next question. Please solve it. Let's discuss. It says manipulating information was a feature of history long before modern journalism. What he is saying, they manipulate information, they change it, and it's not a new phenomenon. It was a feature of history long before modern journalism. So what he says, modern journalism, modern journalists, they manipulate information. Similarly, earlier also they used to manipulate information. It's not a new thing. A record dates back to ancient Rome when Antony met Cleopatra and his political enemy Octavian launched a smear campaign. Smear means, in Hindi we say 𝗘𝘅𝗽𝗧, to cast a slur upon someone. A smear campaign against him with a short, sharp slogans written upon coins. So they used coins to sully or smear someone. The perpetrators means people who conspire. So the perpetrators or criminals became the first Roman emperor. Fake news had allowed Octavian to hack the republican system once and for all. But now we have in the whole video we have seen importance of contrasting word. Here comes but. But the 21st century has seen weaponization. Now it has become a weapon now. So he says they used to manipulate information earlier also. He gave an example of that era of Octavian and Cleopatra. Then he says, but now they have made it a weapon of information on an unprecedented scale. Powerful new technology makes the fabrication of content simple. By fabrication we mean to invent a story, to create a false narrative. That's what he is saying. Now because of technology they are able to do so. Fine. So now we have all the points. The first point is this is not new thing, and he gave an example to say that. Now he's saying that this has become a weapon now. Fine. Let's move to the options. Disinformation, which is mediated by technology today, is not new and has existed since ancient times. Okay. but it is not capturing the tone that it has become a weapon now. The tone, the feeling of author was to say that it has become really a weapon. This is not captured here, so not a very good option. People need to become critical of what they read, since historically weaponization of information has led to corruption. Now again, this is not the main point author wishes to say. Fine. And also it is not capturing about disinformation or manipulating information. Fine. So it just say that it has become a weaponization of information, not a very good option. Use of misinformation for attaining power. Okay. A practice that is as old as Octavian era, great, is fueled by technology. It is covering both the points. So this is a very good option. The last one, Octavian used fake news to manipulate people and attain power and influence just as people do today. Again, weaponization, the tone is not captured out here. So the best option out here is option number 3, which is capturing the tone and capturing all the points properly, and thus it is the answer. So in this particular video, we have discussed all the 6 questions which were asked in CAT 2023 based on para summary. For more such videos and more past year questions, please stay tuned. Happy learning.